And welcome to Small Business Magazine Talk Show
on the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
How about that? That was good. Anyway, I'm Steve Levine.
I'm Barbara Davis-Levine. I'm the Associate Publisher, Creative Director, Head Writer for Small Business Magazine, and the co-host with Steve, who is...
I don't even know where we're going.
You're the publisher.
I'm the executive publisher of the magazine.
There you go.
Exactly. And together we not only publish the magazine, but also co-host the radio show, and they do work in tandem. If you're not familiar with Small Business Today magazine, it's a publication that has 3,000 hard copies and 92,000 online readers worldwide. Every level of business ownership is interested in it and reads it mostly cover to cover. They like the cover story to put there as a nomination, and then
our advisory board nominates. Exactly, yes.
Publisher advisory board. And at the end of the cover story...
At the end of the cover story? You didn't talk about the story itself first.
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Well, talk to the story right at the end of the cover story.
The centerpiece of the magazine is a cover story about somebody who's built a successful business practice here in Houston and now serves as a role model for others. The criteria for the cover honor has more to do with the quality of individual, their story, and their generosity back to the community, as it does with their particular level of success.
Why don't we have a current magazine with us right here?
Well, I don't know.
We don't have...
Let's use the proof for Anthony Ford, because that's the one online right now.
Okay. How about that movie?
Anyway, but it's the centerpiece of the cover story put there by a nomination by an advisory board member, and then a unanimous vote by the advisory board members that I select.
And it's about not just them having a success story of starting with nothing and building something, but how they give back. And that's the key integral factors that make them worthy of being on the cover. And they don't pay to be on the cover. It's strictly by nomination.
And then we ask them for their best words of advice.
What I came up with, which is a takeaway notes page. If you go to every issue except for the first one, at the end of every story is what their takeaway notes. This one's Ford's Philosophy for Success. But if you start reviewing and look at the ones, the back issues, if you see repetitive ones, such as be best friends with your banker, give back to the community, those are things that are all commonly stated. You want to put a check mark and make that your Bible of business, do's and don'ts.
And that's some of the biggest takeaways. Have a good friend with your banker, with your attorney,
I just
financial
said that.
planner. I know,
Yeah.
but there are other ones. And then there's some unique thoughts about... even the worst idea executed is far better than the worst idea. The best idea you only think about.
Right.
So I did that right. So anyway, but a lot of great information. All the editorial provided by experts in the industry of serving business. And we are very selective on what goes in there.
Our mayor of Houston.
Mayor doesn't have one in that one, though.
Oh, well, we have Mila Gullivine that just was one of the G7 award winners. That is Master Word Services.
She does articles on networking with other cultures, doing business with other cultures. Every culture has its own idiosyncrasy.
This one's about Houston.
And that one is about Houston.
Which Houston itself has so many cultures. We have 92 different consulates. So inevitably, if you want to learn about cultures, it's important because you may encounter some with a different, more way, just dealing with them in business.
And nowhere can you find that great information, and all under 600 words. Doing business with Brazil, and how to network with the Chinese, and doing business in Germany. You may not want to move your business to that country, but thanks to the internet, you do have a global audience for your company, product, and services. And knowing how they want to be dealt with, how they want to be networked with, could be the difference between you getting the business or not.
Yeah. Here's one article about how to do business networking. And there are rules even on how to network that people don't even realize. And so we got great articles.
Great articles, great cover story, and it become an international must-read. You can get your copy online still.
SBTMagazine.net or smallbusinessmagazine.com.
And the hard copy is $69 a year, and it's not going to be too long before we charge $1 a month, $12 a year or $18 for 2 years for the digital edition.
It's still free online while they're hot.
Still free right now. And read all the back issues because they've all got great content. That's SBTmagazine.net.
Or smallbusinessmagazine.com.
Either one will take you there. Well, the radio show we came up with to enhance the magazine, to work in tandem, introduce you to our cover honorees, our columnists, our board members, the charities we believe in, the causes that empower others and help others, and Miss Dana over here, Miss Dana Griffin, is on the show again.
Right, she's a business professional, busy mom of 3 boys. When you say busy mom and 3 boys, I mean, that's almost redundant. You can't
Absolutely.
be more like crazy and frenetic mother of when you have 3 boys.
Hanging on for dear life.
I know. It's like, because, I mean, when you're female and you suddenly are thrust into this dealing with the opposite sex, I kept asking my late husband, I said, did you do this when you were that age? Yeah. I go, oh my God. Like, take a total another.
She was on the show with Derek Bowles.
I know.
We were eagerly waiting for Derek to arrive from the airport.
I know,
Yes.
and it's excited to meet her. She's a school psychologist and business owner. She started her company, Griffin Assessment and Psychological Services, in 2007, and she provides contract psychological services to local districts and community charter schools. And currently, Dana consultant as the lead LSSP. What is the LSSP?
LSSP.
Yes. What is that?
Specialist in school psychology.
Go ahead.
It's a behavioral specialist with a local school co-op, and is the CEO of multifaceted company DerekBowles.com and president of Stand Up America Girls Program, Stand Beautiful, which is
And we just
why
had
we
a
brought
great
her.
session
We
with
did.
10 of these amazing young ladies from the Stand Beautiful program. Tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
I would like to hear
Yes.
about that.
So
No, I'd like to hear about that.
You know,
I said,
you're not
Oh
a
my
girl.
goodness.
You're not a girl.
I want to know.
my
You're
goodness.
wearing pink, but
Where
you're
were
not a
you?
girl.
I did the present. Go ahead.
He did, though. He did beautiful.
Good
with
for
the young
him.
Ladies.
We're giving
Yes.
brownie
Yes.
points.
And without you.
Everybody can be beautiful on the
That's
inside.
right.
There we go.
Oh,
See?
see? For the,
The
mouth
message.
of-
So sing that song. I feel pretty.
So Stand Beautiful is one of the Stand Up America programs. It's the Marquee Girls program to infuse leadership skills into our youth. But Stand Beautiful is a little bit different than the other youth leadership program in the sense that it's focusing on some of those issues that are unique to young girls. So we all know what those societal issues are that impact our youth. You know, the teen suicide, bullying, some of the heavy hitters. But some of the ones that are specific to young girls are more in line with body image, self-esteem, self-love. Teen pregnancy is huge. Girl-on-girl violence is huge right now. So these are all issues that are being addressed through the Stand Beautiful program.
Why is that huge? Why are girl-on-girl violence? What is the reason behind that?
It's a really unfortunate trend right now. In fact, I know we had mentioned this on the show before, but just in keeping with my conversations with administrators as we're moving these programs into the schools right now, that is one of their top concerns, is the girl-on-girl violence. There is a lot of social media, entertainment, societal pressure right now for this girl-on-girl competition. And it's a trend, unfortunately. In fact, there was an interview on the radio just recently that I was listening to, morning radio, and they were talking about young girls who actually a mother was promoting the girl-on-girl violence. So there was a mother who set up an interlude with 2 young ladies and encouraged them to fight. And they had audio where the mom was actually encouraging her daughter as she was standing there watching the 2 girls fight. It's a really ugly trend right now.
Mm-hmm. And what can we do to stop it? I mean, we need to, have a type of more shows or positive shows, because I think, do you think it's more starts through the media, or what's encouraging it? What can we do to break that cycle?
I definitely think social media is encouraging it, and I know that Sky could even speak to that as well, as being a teen and how that those things are impressing upon them. But I do think education is really that is the catalyst. That's a way for us to really offset all of the difficulties that we have with regard to the girl-on-girl violence. They need to be encouraged to support one another.
And we have Sky Mick here, and she's a student and also in the program. We're going to be running.
Raise your hand.
And she's going to be 18 very soon, and a smart young lady. And we've been having some brief discussion. I'd like to get more into her background when we get back, because we're running short.
Break?
We're close to running to a break. So we'll be back in just a minute.
And I've had enough groups like Girl Power USA and some of the others to know that it's not easy to be a teenage girl now. There's a lot of mixed messages in the media, and just a lot of changes in our society that need to change back. So we've got to go to a brief few messages. And you're listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
on the
SBT Magazine Radio Network.
CRM sucks. Everyone told you that you needed one for years, and you fought them off. But you finally relented. Guess what? Your instincts were right. After all, it's cost way more money and time than you ever expected, right? And now, you have to fight with your team to get them to use the system. It's been this way for 20 years. It's not just you. 50% of CRM implementations fail to meet expectations. And it's not getting any better. Sure, you need to manage customers and you need to manage those relationships. But what you really need is a business operating platform. You need to be able to create systems and processes and automate those systems and processes. Automation is the key. What you do is unique. The way you work with your customers is what makes you special to them. Don't change who you are. Make the technology fit what's unique and special about you. There's another important piece. Your customers expect to do business with you in so many different ways now. You've got to be able to give them exactly what they want, when they want it, instantly and automatically. Your CRM sucks because you've always needed more. First, identify the buying process that your customer goes through when they make a decision to purchase what you sell. And then marry your sales process to that buying process. Then build the technology to fit those processes. And then finally, require your team to follow the processes and use the technology. All you've got to do is answer two basic questions. Where do your leads come from? And what do you do with them when you get them? Just make it easy for your team to do what you do and be who you are. One often overlooked opportunity is lead nurturing, just staying in touch with everyone. After all, you probably only close maybe a third of the leads that come in. But what if you just stay in touch with the 2/3 that you don't close? This is usually a no-brainer from a return on your investment point of view. Map out the unique way that you work with your customers and make the technology make that easier and faster.
And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
on the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
This guy gets it already. I don't know what you feel, Pam.
I got it.
I know. This is your second time.
I got it.
Anyway, I'm Steve Levine, Executive Publisher of Small Business Today Magazine.
And I'm Barbara Davis Levine, Associate Publisher, Creative Director, Head Writer,
and all those,
Editor,
and
all
a bag
those
of
things.
chips and maybe another
and a box
bag
of Cracker Jacks.
That's right.
I'm the prize.
It's Barbara and I. Yeah, it's Barbara and I who host this show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for you. If you're a Facebook fan of Small Business Today Magazine, there's an audio link right after the show's over. And then also on all the social media within 48 hours, thanks to Ron Coleman at
MovieWhip.com.
And Jerome, our engineer.
Jerome Davis, engineer extraordinaire.
Exactly. We have a high-definition YouTube video up with editing and commercials up on all the social media sites. So like us on Facebook, Small Business Today Magazine, and you won't miss any of the shows ever.
Ever.
So
Ever.
See how she jumped in there? She's a natural.
My buddy here.
She is very cool. And she was just here for a seminar we did for 10 young ladies that are part of the Stand Beautiful program. That
Dana Griffin.
Us too. And she kicked all the other ones out. She just said, beat it.
That's it.
Beat it, chicks, I'm here.
And
Anyway,
Sky is a student at Houston Heights High School.
right?
Tell us about your background.
Well,
Where were you born?
I was actually born here in Houston at the Memorial City, not the Memorial City, Memorial Hospital here. I'm almost 18. I'll be turning 18 in August. Really looking forward to that. I really like, I've always kind of wanted to be an engineer. I've always thought that would be something interesting. I also like drawing, painting. I like to sometimes write music. I do sing a little bit with my dad, and we play guitar.
Barbara, this lady could be your protege.
Well, you might want to be an architect with your, because if you like drawing and you like the technical, that might be marry the two areas.
Well, that's one of the things I've always kind of been interested in engineering, because if you get into engineering, it doesn't really limit you on what you can do. You can go into, have your minor in engineering and still be able to go into so many different facets throughout and so many different types of business. And you also, like, because you're getting that engineering, you're actually getting business, background, but not only that, but experience and actually making connections with people and actually being able to contract and such. So it's like it gives you such a wide area to work with. And then it also, to be honest, I'm not a person who always likes to have, I like to have my options open. So it gives me a lot of opportunity to choose what I want to do when I want to.
Well, it's really hard. Here you graduate high school, you got to go to college, and they say, pick a major.
It's like, wait, what?
And then you maybe not been into the business and actually seen the work world, have an experience of what that work world is going to be after you get your degree. Some people may be sadly disappointed they may not like the stress, may not like the limitations or who they have to report to. Mm-hmm. So it's a very hard thing to do.
It is, and often what you think your career choice is turns into something whole different.
Totally different direction.
I wanted hotel management. I was told to go to business school. I eventually went to hotel school, and then from there in this property management, residential real estate, apartment guy, and been all apartment guys.
I was biology major and English minor. Figure out that.
Because you don't know what you want. And like I told the young ladies, you don't know what subject can be most important to you later. Yeah. You might think, I'll never use this, I'll never use that. And, my story is I failed a public speaking course, but ended up being a national speaker. Who knew? Right? I'll never use this. I get nervous speaking in front of a crowd. And I've had a crowd of 1,500 at my largest seminar. So you don't know what you're going to need, so you want to grab everything. And don't let your grades be indicative of what people tell you can't become, because you certainly can.
How did you get involved in being part of the Stand Beautiful program?
Well, actually, to be honest, my dad is actually the person who actually created Houston Heights High School, and we kind of...
Oh.
Yeah, he was actually the founder of Houston Heights High School, and we kind of, whenever he was always telling me whenever he was starting the high school, he actually was a teacher beforehand, and he saw a lot of up in hand how kids were, there's a lot of kids that were in school, but they weren't getting the stuff that they needed, and they weren't getting that personalized information that they needed, or that personalized, and having more of a family thing. They were kind of... they were kind of left out, and there was a lot of people, there was students. He thought, even though, some of these students might not have the best pass, he wants to give them a second chance so they can further themselves and be able to achieve something with their lives and be able to success and, be proud of how they are and, say, this is me. I can be whoever I want to be.
Yes.
And, have that power to do what they need to do. And, improve the world and just have that feeling that it's self-accomplishment where I did this on my own. Well, I had help, but I could have done this, and I could have came from nothing and rose all the way to the top with,
So you agree with me today?
That's it.
Yes.
Every one of us have the capability of making a difference.
She was also chosen. So the kids that are participating in the programs were chosen by the administration. And so we have 2 programs running at Houston Heights, and Stand Beautiful is one of the 2. And so the students were actually selected by administration. And as being some of those students that she's speaking about that maybe had, very different paths, maybe don't have a lot of a support network, don't have mentors, that type of thing. And then there are other individuals like Sky that are put in those programs on purpose because they are just leaders in and of themselves, and they set good examples for the other students, and they can sort of set the tone for where the program is going.
Why do you think there's an influx of girls hurting other girls?
Well, it goes back to, again, there's a lot of different factors, I think, that have to do with that. One of the factors is that in today's society, there's a lot of, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of media saying, there's a lot of things in media that, go towards, teen pregnancy, peer pressure and stuff like that. But not only that, but it's also the competition. We as girls, we sometimes have, we want something, and yet it seems like in a way it's a bad thing, and then in a way it's a good thing, because it shows, yes, there's competition, but it's a bad thing because we're putting it towards something that could, it's not a good or a positive way. It's
negative way.
Negative way.
Yeah, it's
whereas you could put the competition, but in a positive way. So it's like, I'm gonna, I have a best friend and we're competing. It could either break them up, where it's just like, oh, well, you're doing better than I am, so I'm going to try to, push you down. Or it can be, oh, this is my best friend. I'm going to try to work with her so I can actually motivate both of us and pull each other up.
We're going to come back with this amazing student. I'm pretty sure she's 20-something. She can't be in high school. I mean, because she's just too mature and too cool with this whole project. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Dana, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can check out the information about Stand Up America and the individual programs at the website, which is www.stand-upamerica.com, or directly at 713-828-8776.
And it's all part of DerekBowles.com.
Absolutely.
We like him, except for being a big guy. But we've got to go to a quick break. You're listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
on the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Paul Marcus, owner of Affordable Searches, your premier investigation company specializing in comprehensive background checks nationwide. Business owners know one of the most important things to do is the hiring of employees. However, if you make mistakes or you don't check them out thoroughly, this could lead to problems. Some of the problems may be unsafe business environment, possible violence in the workplace, negligent hiring, lawsuits, and a turnover of employees. Our website has a wealth of information for you to read and learn how to run the correct background checks. We are also available for free consultations at 1-877-685-6691. Visit our testimonials page to see what our current customers say about us.
And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
on the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
We're having a great time with Dana Griffin and Sky Mick from Houston Heights High School. How did that high school pick you guys?
We picked them. It was the opposite, actually. And I'd like to say, too, that, we apologize for not having Erica McCready, the principal, on the show today. She was intended to be here, and she would have been a wealth of information. She had
was
a family
doing a good neighborly deed.
That's correct.
She was helping her neighbor.
Yes, and so she was not available.
We'll just have to have her back.
That's
right.
true.
With some other young ladies.
Yes.
And Sky.
And Sky.
Sky's going to be like the ringleader.
She's got to come every time.
Everybody will be jealous of her.
She can come without everybody.
Yeah. Very cool.
So we actually chose their high school. I've been servicing their school for 8 years now as a school psychologist, yes. And so I've worked very closely with the principal and with Sky's father, Mr. Mick. And so she's correct. He actually does have a very different philosophy, as does their principal. Out of all the schools that I've serviced over the past 11 years, the culture that has been created at their campus is very different in the sense that they're, for a lack of better words, it's sort of like a place for the throwaway kiddos. It's the ones where kids have not been successful in other locations and bigger districts and other schools, and they're welcomed with open arms at that campus.
Is it part of HISD, or is it?
It is.
It's not a charter school.
It is a charter, but it's an HISD charter. And so, because I was familiar with the kiddos at that campus, I knew that they had a really tremendous, wonderful emphasis on making sure that the kids had their education and that they were graduating them. But what they didn't have was a program or programs that really focused on teaching these leadership skills to help them with the transition to graduate and then actually go out into the community and be productive members in society. And especially with regard to the girls program in particular, because of all of the interesting trends that we have going on right now, we were starting to worry about how these young women were going to go out into the workforce, and they were going to take the skills that they were lacking, as high school students, and be able to function in the work world with other women. And how does, a woman work with other men versus other women, and all of these different types of skills. And so they were very receptive when we talked to them about bringing the leadership programs to their campus. They definitely were right on board and have been very supportive, and the programs have been very successful since their launch in February.
Our videographer, Ronald Coleman, MovieWhip.com, brought up a question about, do women or girls emulate other women more, or do they try to emulate men? And y'all were talking about, well, they do, with these bad things. But in the work world, it's, because that women only make like 70 cents for every dollar a man does. When women are trying to break the glass ceiling, they are actually, a lot of them are more trying to copy the men. Mm-hmm. And even learning how to talk like a man talks to each other is a very important thing. For example, we had one of our cover honorees was put in a situation. She was the only woman hired for a male-dominated profession, and she'd try and raise her hand and be polite, like a woman would do, and she wasn't getting noticed, and she didn't know how to deal with it because she didn't. Because
Connie.
Exactly, Connie Rankin, and unfortunately, if a woman becomes more stronger in their role as a leader, they're often labeled the B word, which is totally, you wouldn't label a strong man another negative word, curse word, but the woman automatically is. So she didn't know what to do, so she stood up at the board meeting. She just stood up. Mm-hmm. And finally, everybody shut up. She says, well, I didn't know how I could interrupt. I didn't know how. And so from then on, it became a joke. Do I need to stand up again? But it's interesting that my mother was in a male-dominated career. She was the first woman underwriter insurance in the state of Texas. And I remember her working in the Continental Insurance Companies, and all the other women were in the secretarial pool, and they were jealous of my mother. And my mother had no animosity towards them. She was friendly with them, but they were envious. And then instead of saying, how can I get there? And it takes organizations like Women Business Enterprise Alliance, National Association of Women Business Owners, to help other women, show them there is a way to support your sisters.
The Women Contractors Association.
Women Contractors Association, big in getting the WBE, the Women Business Enterprise, which is a minority business designation to get contracts with the city and the state. Was a Women Contractors Association that got that implemented again, because women should be considered a minority because they still, like I said, 70 cents of every dollar women make as opposed to men. And so we need to start in the level is teaching women to help each other, and it starts.
And that's a huge piece, the collaboration piece. We had a really great speaker come out last week and talk to the girls and a local, business person, and that was one of the things that she really focused on, was talking about how we should be supporting each other and not trying to tear each other down. But the premise of the program itself, that's, the way that you're describing it, it's interesting that you bring that up, because really that is the focus of the program. We're focusing on 10 character building principles. And one of the ways to offset the societal pressures and even just the reality of what it looks like for a woman versus another woman or a woman versus another man is building that person up from the inside out. It's building up that woman's character. It's teaching them how to be authentic. It's teaching them how to have self-respect. It's teaching them how to embrace who they are. We call it redefining beautiful, because we're not saying that beautiful is not just your physical appearance. Right. Beautiful is having, a great mind. It's having intellect. It's having honesty. It's being compassionate, it's being confident. It's really a new way of saying that we have unique skill sets. We have things that make us different just in the fullness of being a woman, and we should be able to use those for our betterment. We should use those skills to support one another and not be tearing each other down.
Have you thought of having men, corporate owners, come in and talk about how they want to see a woman come across in a business world to be successful with what they identify as a leader in a woman to.
That would be an amazing perspective. If I'd thought of that, I would have hit Steve up to talk about that today, because he did a wonderful job talking to the girls today. But I think that's a valuable perspective. When Catherine Catrone is a realtor with Keller Williams, she spoke last week. She talked about those challenges of working with men and how men viewed her and some of those pitfalls that she encountered just being out in the workforce and dealing with, all men personnel. And so I think that's an amazing perspective. I think it's very valid, because I think they need to know how other people see them.
We've had more women business owners on the cover than men or even couples. And we've had several that were couples, but it was really the woman's business. And I'm thinking of the Asian woman having a senior moment.
Lishan Burney. That was her business.
It was her company, her property management company, owned 2 apartment communities, an office building here, and an office building and an apartment community in New Jersey. And it's her business.
Oh, yeah, she's very clear about
her
that.
husband, James, helps her. She's even been on a stamp in China. Now, you know you've made it when you get to
Right.
stamp.
That'll be my goal. I need a stamp.
Right there, it's even as respectful of their husband and his achievements are. It's her company. And she's been at our events before. But that's exactly, we've had more women on the cover. Because
But you know what? Initially, before I started putting my 2 cents into it, you had lined up mainly with your other partners, men, and it was my pushing,
That was
saying,
a coincidence.
"Where are the women? Where are the women?"
Because women give a really interesting insight to a lot of different things that a lot of people won't actually think about. It's like, that's one of the great things about having women and men in the same workforce, is because each one contributes their own individual idea, and no idea is exactly the same, and everybody has their own unique twist on it. So it's really great to hear that, because it can inspire something so great and so powerful in this type of day and world. And going back to, girls, not being, I think part of, that girl-on-girl violence, going back to that, is, having that competition in the world, is because we get them at a very young age, where, like, magazines and TV and music, they're always talking about, how, like, this girl, like, Anaconda don't. They're always like, oh, yeah, we have to give this certain image, or we have to teach this people, the young age to, do it a certain way. And it's a lot different over the years, over the generations. You can see a total different switch between, way back when, a few years ago, where there wasn't as much media towards social media and, celebrities and stuff, and it was more of the country's news and stuff like that. But now it's more of the music affecting it, the social, like what the celebrities are doing. Everybody wants to mimic, someone cool and famous, and we gotta, we have to have chains. We gotta do, we gotta twerk. It's just like,
just recently when I spoke out of town at a women's empowerment conference, one of the things that I talked about was the, is it Kylie Jenner lip challenge?
Yes, the Kylie
Jenner. So one of the things that they're doing now is that she, I guess, inadvertently had some type of temporary lip filler.
What they would do is they would, I don't
suction on their lips.
Well, pretty much what you would do is they would take a shot glass and they would put it around their lips and they would suction it, and it would actually. I actually read a couple of articles about it. By doing that, a lot of people were getting like bruises and stuff like that if they did it too long, and they were actually busting veins in their lips.
Yeah.
And
so there's a product on the market that you can purchase that will actually create the suction, and then it causes trauma to your lips, which causes them to swell. But when the young girls didn't have access to the product, they were using things like soda bottles and shot glasses. And there was a plastic surgeon who had written a report about some of the damage that he had seen from the shot glasses, because it creates so much suction that the glass would shatter, and then it would cause them to have cuts and abrasions. And then also, I guess the mechanism that's underneath your lip was tearing and causing permanent damage. And it's just another example of extreme measures based on
the frenum.
Yeah, based on physical appearance. And so we're talking a lot about women, we're talking a lot about collaboration, but one of the things that society has led us to at this point is we have young girls, young children who are in the first grade. between first and third grade. And the statistics are staggering for young girls at that age who are already suffering with body image issues and self-esteem issues.
You know what, though? It's not new, it's old. It is that goes back. I remember people removing ribs so they could have narrower waistlines.
Yeah.
They in the olden days they put corsets on and actually would remove ribs and funny things. In each culture, I mean, there are certain ones what they admired the long neck, so they use those stretchers or the long ears in certain.
Or like the Chinese who would actually like try to squish their feet
and
into
make
these
club feet. Yes,
like,
they bound their feet. They did actually maim them. They bound their feet to have the little small feet.
And
so
even like Barbie doll, when way back when we were actually like whenever Barbie dolls just first came out, a lot of girls wanted to be, oh, Barbie, she's got the perfect, she's got the perfect house, got the perfect boyfriend, got the perfect, I can do anything, but I have to look a certain way or be a certain way to do it or be plastic.
You know what's funny?
Gifted.
My mother was the assistant to the owner of Texas Toys. And so every day, they knew to get into a meeting to show a new toy to the president of the company, they had to get through my mother. And they knew she had a daughter. So I got just about every toy that was coming out on the market. I used to be like, what do I have today, Mommy? And it was funny, because it was just, I didn't really value them. I'd give them, and people would take my toys. I didn't care which. She would go down the street. My daughter didn't give that to you, can't cake. It was a pedal thing or something. But I got the first Barbie. And maybe because I was a tomboy, I didn't have this abiding thing that I had to look like her. I did have fun making, we couldn't afford Barbie's Dream House when I got older, so I made boxes and had to decorate the boxes. Now, all my friends that could afford the Barbie Dream House would come to my house and play with the boxes because I'd made all these things. But for whatever reason, I was never in my head to look like Barbie. I liked the clothes and mixing and matching, but the image of looking like her body was just never in my head. And I don't know if it's the TV commercials and the models that maybe perpetuated that or instigated it.
I don't want to blame everything on social media because I think social media can be a very positive outlet for a lot of our kiddos. But what I do know is that there is an extreme emphasis with media and entertainment for, the young ladies to look a certain way. And like I said, just, the Kylie Jenner lip challenge is just one example of an extreme measure. But you're right, they've been around forever. Those things have been around forever. But one of the things that's important, for us within the program is the fact that when the young girls suffer from low self-esteem, whether that's because of their own, family influences or outside influences, they engage in negative behaviors.
That's it. Mm-hmm. And I think because my mother always told me that I was smart, I was beautiful, anything I imagined I could do, I could. She believed in me. And I think it was my mother's validation, because I didn't have a father to validate. He died on my 8th birthday. But she would tell me, I believe in you. Anything I believe, you believe you can do, I believe you can do. And I think that validation maybe kept me, and the fact that she said, be different. You don't have to be a follower. And because unfortunately, so many don't have that. I know.
And so when we get them, that's our job.
Our
job is to teach them that, that validation can come from within when you can't get it externally.
And that's where it's needed because, I guess, and also we need to go back to those parents and re-educate them. Mm-hmm. We need to have programs for the parents that also are probably brought up in the same way.
Right.
Because it starts at the home.
Mm-hmm. It does. I agree.
Mainly.
I think we got about a minute, according to you, and 2 according to me. So, I want to review for a few seconds exactly what Stand Beautiful is. We're hearing a lot about it and the issues facing the young women in high school.
Yes.
And what you guys are doing about it. So just real briefly.
Okay. It's the youth leadership program specifically for girls. It's one of 2 of the youth leadership programs with Stand Up America. And the goal is to go in and infuse leadership skills, but also target some of those issues, societal issues that are very specific to young women, the self-esteem issues, body image, teen pregnancy, etc. And we are in phase 1, actually, of our Houston launch. so we have a goal to move programs into 12 schools, and Houston Heights High School was the first one to receive it, and we launched that in February.
Fantastic. And again, contact information.
Yes, you can check out the information about Stand Up America and the programs at the website, which is www.stand-up.america.com, or you can contact me directly at 713-828-8776.
Well, we're having a great time on this show. We'll be right back with more after these messages. You're listening to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
On the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Steve Levine.
And I'm Barbara Davis Levine.
And we're with Small Business Today Magazine.
And Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show.
And we're at the beautiful dealership of AutoShopper.biz here at 15455 Kirkendall, just south of 1960.
And we are in front of a gorgeous, gorgeous XF Jaguar 2010. It's only $19,000. It is gorgeous. You can call if you want more information at 281-781-7025.
AutoShopper.biz, everybody gets finance.
Marvelous place.
Gorgeous cars, great people.
Great owner, very family oriented. This is Sheer and Tom and Noam and Ron.
Hi.
What do y'all think about the dealership?
I like the place, great cars.
First time we've been here, the service is very good.
Excellent.
15455 Kirkendall, just south of 1960. And call us
281-781-7025. That's AutoShopper.biz.
And welcome back to Small Business Today Magazine Talk Show
On the SBT Magazine Radio Network.
We should reintroduce our guest, Barbara, one more time. Dana Griffin with Stand Up America and
Stand Beautiful.
Stand Beautiful.
That's right.
Stand Beautiful.
And one of our beautiful proteges over here, Miss Sky Mick.
Sky Mick, Houston
Yeah.
Heights High School.
And you're a junior?
Yes, I'm a junior, but I'm actually very close to graduating. I have probably 3 more credits that I need to finish off. So.
All right. Well, she's an amazing young lady.
That's right.
She is.
All things considered.
Your parents did a great job.
Yeah, she's like 17 going on 30. She might be 15. Right?
That's right.
Actually, I think that was a movie. 17 going on 30.
No, it was 17 again and 30.
16 going on 30.
Okay.
Anyway, but we're back and we're talking about the Stand Beautiful
As
program.
opposed to 38 going on 2.
Okay. Being initiated at Heights High School, right up the road by Dana Griffin, and that's part of the Derek Bowles program. He's just an amazing guy.
It's a wonderful program that's going to be implemented throughout.
Yes, our goal is for phase 1 to move the programs into 12 schools. And so we did a lot of research. We looked at the TEA website and looked up all of their statistics, dropout rates, population of at-risk youth, teen pregnancy rates, that type of thing. Went through and identified 12 that we felt were really desperately in need.
Is Yates High School one of them?
It is one of them, as a matter of fact, yes. And so, Houston Heights was obviously top on my list, not necessarily for their statistics per se, but because I had been servicing that school. And so I was very familiar with their population, and I knew what some of their students' needs were. And I knew that their administration was very open-minded with regard to wanting the best for their kiddos and wanting to make sure that they offered them, the leadership programs and getting them prepared for graduation.
Well, we were talking on the break about having programs that could also encourage whatever parents are in the picture, right, or caretakers or whoever's guardians to participate maybe in even a quarterly support program to help build themselves up if they indeed. But you were saying that in this program there are a lot of kids that are living on their own. Is that correct?
Right. For some of the charters especially, as I had said before, these are some of the kiddos that have not been successful in other locations, and some of them are at a place where they're living on their own, or they're having other alternative support systems. They're living with friends or family members. We have one young lady who's currently in the foster care system and lives at DePelchin. So they don't necessarily have, the 100% parent support that we would prefer.
What age do you think that begins where there end up being no caretaker in the foster system? Is there a point that maybe you could go back and find the parents at an earlier stage where they haven't gotten to that point? Or
it's situational.
Yeah, I think that it is situational. Yeah, there's so many variables that go into, how children end up in those circumstances. But we definitely need more of an emphasis. That's actually, Derek Bowles talks a lot about that, about how we need to, reintroduce leadership in our homes and our communities and our educational systems, and parenting is, is a huge piece of that.
Right.
And support for the
because
kids.
it's not just parenting; it's teaching them how to be successful. They're already adults, and it's a cycle. It's just like a child abuser is one that has been abused, and they repeat what they've learned. How do you break the pattern? I know that there are judges that when somebody has been charged with child abuse, rather than taking the children out of the home, they put the children in the family into a home to model.
Correct.
And teach them how to reprogram themselves.
Well, that whole idea of having mentors is, one of the big emphases for us with regard to the program. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring the girls over today and let them meet y'all and let Steve speak to them earlier.
The young ladies, particularly Sky, if you want, Barbara and I'd be happy to be surrogate parents.
There you go.
And mentors, you just let us know what you need.
Because a lot of them don't have the support network. And they, as you can see, even from the girls that we brought over here today, there's kiddos who have a lot of good ideas. They have dreams, they have goals, and they definitely have really strong aspirations for themselves, but they don't have people in their immediate environment who can point them in the right direction. They're not individuals who are examples for them of how they should be and how to take those first steps. And so introducing them to, members of our community and successful business owners are really an instrumental piece, because they need those examples. They need mentors.
We need to start an advisory board of mentors. Small Business Magazine mentor program.
Okay.
And everybody's been a cover honoree, ask them if they'll participate, and every one of our board members, and see if we could do that
It's
and start a
doable.
source.
It's doable.
Because I think one of the main reasons that people have a hard time is because they don't really get that support that they need. They don't have that person saying, yeah, you can do it. You can, try really hard. I mean, I know when I was actually really little, I got diagnosed with ADD, dyslexia, and dysgraphia. And when I was really little, I was having a whole really hard time reading, and even my mother, who's like, my mother, she birthed me, she was just like, you're stupid, you're not going to ever read. I mean, in a way.
Oh, no.
She said that to me, like, when I was 5. It's like, you're, stupid, you're never going to read. And yes, it's really harsh, but then, and also, in a way, since I had that harshness, it actually kind of pushed me to, yes, there's going to be negative things that people are going to say, but in a way, if you don't have those negative things, you'll never try to improve on yourself. So yes, in some ways, you have to be able to take the negative, or the stuff that people say that is negative,
and overcome it.
Overcome it, but take it with a grain of salt. But also see what they're trying to say, because I think there's no really thing that has nothing ever is really a mistake. It's something that you can learn on. It's a past experience. I think it's a past experience. The more experience you have, the more better your life is. And whenever you get to look back, you can say, oh,
I overcame
that huge mountain. Like, I had to say this, but Hannah Montana, that song, The Climb, is just, it's all about, I went through all these hard times, yet whenever it comes down to it, I conquered, and I tried my hardest. And another, one of my best friends, and one actually, who's one of the students who's also in Stand Up for America, she said this quote that really gave me, was really kind of one of the models that I look at now. She says, it's a minor setback for a major comeback. And I always saw that, and I was just like, that really, speaks to a lot of things,
right.
I thought.
Well, I mean, and the biggest thing people think, and it goes with business too, people have an idea, okay, I'm going to implement it, I'm going to become a business in this, and then something happens and you fail, but it's not really a failure, it's a learning experience. As long as you take what you've learned and say, let's try a different angle. Just like Edison had to try how many thousands of times before he came with the right filament for a light bulb. It's the whole idea is you don't look at it as you're a failure, you look at it as a lesson learned every time you find that something is not successful.
I think if I remember correctly, he's like, whenever he was talking about how many times he failed, it was like, well, I didn't fail at, figuring out how to make a, making a light bulb. I just found all these different ways not to do it.
Exactly.
And by the way, Sky, if there was a victory, there had to be a battle. Mm-hmm. Every one of our cover stories, every one of the people we've shared their story had a whole big reason why they never should have been there.
This man, Tony Noun, he lived in a cave for over 100 some odd days with his family, hiding from the people persecuting Christians in Lebanon. They were killing the neighbors. It's like, imagine somebody coming in your neighborhood and say, we're going to kill everybody because they're Christian.
It's like The Purge, that movie.
Exactly.
Is like where
Well, that's what they survived all of that and came to this country with like a few bucks in his pocket.
$15.
These are the stories. I mean, like amazing stories about people.
I was a multimillionaire.
And all he
Every
did,
one of these had
wash dishes as a dishwasher, didn't speak the language. I mean, it's all these great.
Howard Partridge built a multi-million-dollar turnkey business out of the trunk of his car. Doesn't even have a college education. All of these people have reasons why they never should have succeeded, and that might be the major motivator for most.
Exactly.
If somebody told me I can't, now watch me. You heard that's part of my story.
I was told in school I couldn't do something by a counselor. And the
Don't look at me.
No, but I'm saying
Don't look at me.
No, but I'm saying sometimes, and it was this counselor. She never met me. She didn't know me. She'd never sat down with me. She just looked at my thing. Well, I don't think you're capable of being a DE student. I said, you don't know me. How do you know what I'm capable of?
Well, and
that
what you're talking about is really important because we can't always control the external environment.
Right.
We can't do that. And as Steve pointed out, a lot of the individuals that you all are speaking about are people who their external environment, their external circumstances would have dictated that they shouldn't be where they are today.
Right.
And so we try to take those circumstances and say, okay, we cannot, for all intents and purposes, change your external environment, but what we can do is focus on your internal environment. And that's character development. It's building up adaptability. You pointed out, if something happens and you failed 10 times, well, how do you use that as, well, this is not necessarily a failure, it's a plot twist. We're going to go in a different direction. We're going
It's not a statement of who you are.
Correct.
It's just a statement of a situation that didn't work out and how do you overcome it. And that's what we need is counselors that care. That I apparently didn't get when I was in school, that didn't take the time to find out about my background, just read a piece of paper and said, well, I don't think you can fit in that program. I said, well, you're wrong.
Right.
And thank goodness I had that personal fortitude to argue and say, you're going to put me in that program. And but not everybody has that. And that's the thing is teaching that. I can teach somebody how to sell. I can teach anybody how to sell, but how do you teach somebody to have confidence in sell?
Right.
That's a whole circle.
That's our goal.
That's your goal.
That's our
That's
goal.
a big chart.
And I guess I feel that like in this day and age, there's a lot of emphasis on both guys and girls, and everybody really is. Everybody, you have to do everything perfect. You can't make mistakes. And if you even for big political people, if they make mistakes, it's known all across the world. I mean, you make one mistake and it could completely ruin your career. It's like we're trying to train people, say you can never make mistakes. You can't. In a way, making mistakes is what makes us human. So it's just like you can't make mistakes. So you have to do your best. You have to do it right this day. And if you mess up, you fail. You're worthless. You can't do anything. And
not just in task, but in terms of how we present and how we look, and that's another message for the girls as well.
There are some parents that go to the extreme. There are ones that don't care, not in the picture, and then there are ones that are overly putting the pressure on their children, sending them. They're on what you've got to make perfect grades or whatever. How do you deal with that too? The ones that have
overcompensating.
They're want to project themselves to their children, and they're the ones that put their kids in beauty pageants because they didn't think they were pretty enough or smart enough. Yeah. So it's the same kind of thing.
You're right. Those influences are equally, or can be equally as damaging. And again, I go back to what I say is that we can't always control the external environment, but what you can do is focus on building up the child so that the child has enough of that character development that they're kind of safeguarded. They have some coping skills to deal with those outside influences.
My question is, should we start it in elementary school?
Absolutely. In fact,
the sooner you can, I think.
Because we have children who are first first grade. Third grade is a very pivotal year,
Oh,
but you know,
yes.
it definitely starts as early
Third
as first grade. And so right
Kindergarten.
now, our curriculum is focused on middle and high school. However, Derek and I are co-authoring a series of children's books that will be coming out soon, and they will be based on what he calls his 5 C's of leadership, and it will become the curriculum for the elementary school children.
Excellent.
Well,
Yeah,
you showed it.
I was a classic third grade burnout, and it was because they didn't deal with my ability to learn, and I instead of encouraging that I read all the books ahead of time by the first week, they were mad that I knew all the answers. So I figured, well, who cares? Then I just will do my least amount I can in school. So yeah, those kind of things.
Not just the academic challenges, but I have a second grader, and you know, even the comments, and it's a boy, not a girl, but you know, even the comments, I can't wear this because that doesn't look cool, and they don't like this because they said my hair looks this way.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you know, those pressures start so
the
early.
yeah. I know. There's somebody that I always wondered what happened, and I actually found her on Facebook and apologized to her for the other children being cruel to her. And they would say, "You got Barbara T's cooties," and she always was looked unkempt, and I felt sorry for her. But my father died right around that time. I never got to know her. Turned out her family was going through divorce. Things had changed, and I never got to find out. And it bothered me that they were all making fun of her, and I was that young, and I felt so bad for her that I found her, and she's grown up to be a happy woman and grandchildren, and it made me feel so good that she overcame that.
wonderful.
She never let it get to her.
What a great show
Great
this has been,
show.
Barbara.
Wonderful show.
I think that Sky should be our teen co-host.
Thanks.
Right?
Yeah, one more time, how to get in touch with y'all.
You can check us out at the website at www.stand-upamerica.com. You can also check us out at www.derekbowles.com.
BOLES.
BOLES, or you can contact me directly at 713-828-8776.
When's Derek coming back?
Soon.
Good. We want to know.
Soon.
And had a great time. Thank you, Jerome Davis, engineer extraordinaire, and Mr.
Ronald Coleman,
of
moviewhip.com.
Craig Klein with Sales Nexus, one of our clients.
Tony
in the
Down,
magazine.
autoshopper.biz.
Tony Noun, with
Autoshopper.biz, and Paul Marcus, affordablesearches.com.
That's right. Thank you all who participate. And you've been listening to Mother's Day Magazine Talk Show
On the
SBT Magazine Radio Network.